What do you make of this hysteria on social media about alleged civilian casualties of Russia's military action in Syria? And what's your reaction to the fact that some of those materials have been uploaded by the Western-backed Syrian opposition?
Well, first and foremost, social media is a riot. It is a crowd. It is a group of people who post a variety of things, good, bad, hateful, true, correct. Somewhere in the midst of that, we collectively call social media. So first of all, there is no social media. It is an information riot. What I cannot believe is how venerated news organizations from around the world who pride themselves on checking sources, checking the bases, validating, authenticating issues and statements and claims that are of such international importance, how they are abnegating and completely turning their backs on their duty and not understanding that today you don't have to infiltrate media conglomerates like Operation Mockingbird we speak of here in this country. All you have to do is set up a phony Twitter account or a phony blog or a phony website or a bias, whatever biased is, and have one person, one line producer refer to it, and it's off. That's it. No validation, no accreditation, no authentication.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose this demonstrates how dangerous social media can be, and the fact that these Western media outlets have used these unverified sources. Just actually want to talk about what was in those reports, if we may, because obviously we want to have a look, just to put this into context for us, because some news channels, they have indeed been stirring up fears over Russia's action in Syria. Let's have a look, shall we, together, Lionel?
Russia has been building up its military presence there.
It'll have a couple of missile cruisers and some amphibious vessels.
They're saying no troops on the ground or being sent into combat. They have got troops on the ground there. They've got 1,700 Marines.
It's an example of Russia flexing its muscles, putting itself centre stage, trying to portray itself as a global power.
If the Russians say they're attacking ISIS, ISIS doesn't have fighter jets. ISIS doesn't have an air capability. So why are the Russians moving in with all this air capability to challenge ISIS?
Lionel, I want to ask what impact this has on the audience, the millions of listeners, because obviously you're in the States. What has been the reaction?
Well, I will tell you right now that there are people that I know, both in the media and observers, who are spouting and repeating like mynah birds Cold War rhetoric. Now, I don't understand something. Maybe you can help me. When coalition forces, the good guys, and that's a big term here, the good guys, when the good guys apply a coalition strike force against ISIS, we applaud that. When the bad guys identify the same target, ostensibly, then they're flexing their muscles. When the good guys, whoever this is, depending upon where you are invited in, are asked to cooperate, you are applauded. When the bad guys do it, you're invading a country. Now, I don't understand, and I think most people can, to figure out who exactly are the good guys and who are the bad guys. Do we want to remove ISIS and ISIL? Yes. Does it matter who removes them? I don't think so. Do you care how a cancer is removed? I don't care, however you do it. So remember, we have a society, at least here, and I would say around the world, that has the attention span of a gnat. So who cannot follow this? This is a very complicated story. The idea that Russia has a port in Tartus, most people don't know that. Or that there has been a relationship with Syria throughout the years. Many people don't know this. There's a big difference between helping out a country per invitation and invading it. Last time I checked my dictionary.
Lionel, as you say, everyone's against ISIS. I mean, as you say, it's like a cancer. Who cares gets rid of it as long as it's gone? But it makes you wonder who would be gaining from these allegations against Russia based on these unverified videos. Do you think there's more to it?
Yes. Yeah. There's all. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Not at you, but yes, there's always something to this. Look, I don't know how this happened, but if you read American press today, and if you read the social media, and if you read, I'm hearing this more than I've ever heard. Quote, you know, I'm no big fan of Putin, but I've got to admit, or, you know, I'm no fan of Assad, or I'm no fan of, what does that even mean? What does that mean, you're no? People have this, again, good guy, bad guy, apodictic, white hat, black hat. We are speaking, many people, of a Cold War rhetoric and a mindset that is dangerous. Right now, more than ever, in the spirit of the United Nations and in the spirit of cooperation, we need to integrate our resources to stop this terroristic cancer, which everybody agrees must be ablated and removed. That's our goal. Yet we're parsing how it's done, by whom it's done, why it's done, and we're having a story or stories that are provided for by unverified, unvalidated, unauthenticated, and I'm sorry to do news quotes, air quotes, news sources that some line producer said, well, that'll do. Look, we live in an age of the onion. We live in an age where our parody news looks so much like the real news that every single day we're hearing this is a hoax. In our own Facebook world for the past weeks, we've been going through a hoax about privacy. We can't tell the truth anymore from fiction. And that's okay when you're talking about some silly Facebook posting, but this is life and death. This is the history of the world. This is the future. ISIS and ISIL and terrorism is something that I thought we all agreed had to be ablated and expurgated and removed and excised. And yet, through all of this nonsense, we can't even decide, do we want them removed or don't we? And does it matter how this cancer is ablated, how it is removed? If you're a victim of a stage 4 melanoma, you don't care. And dare I say the world is a victim of this terroristic cancer.
All right, Lionel, thanks very much indeed. Always insightful. Thanks for your time there. Lionel, media and legal analyst. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's just run through the facts then, shall we, once more. It's breaking news here on RT International. The Russian Defense Ministry has released footage of its first airstrikes conducted in Syria against Islamic State. Now, according to the ministry, Russian fighter jets hit 8 ISIL targets today, having conducted 20 missions. And these were done in areas where there were no civilians. They targeted ISIL command and control centres based in the mountainous terrain. Now, the operation was carried out in coordination with the Syrian intelligence. So those are the facts right now. Let's just chat it through just now with William Whiteman, who is here with me. Hello to you. Hello. Obviously, lots to talk about. Lionel, you know, he was saying how, who cares? It's a cancer. Let's just get rid of it. But aside from that, everyone is saying how and why and criticising. And as we were saying, social media has gone crazy about it. Yeah. So how will, or how has, if you can explain it to me, the world reacted?
Well, in terms of Russia tackling the problem of ISIS or al-Qaeda affiliates such as al-Nusra, the reaction has been positive, as we can see now.
Russia has just submitted an outline of a resolution to the Security Council. I say to all parties and partners who wish to join our action, they're welcome.
We have to seek a feasible solution to the Middle East crisis, not to engage in empty talk.
All right, so that reaction is obviously very clear. What else do we know at this stage about reactions and kind of what's next as well? Because today's been a big day. There's been reaction coming from here, there and everywhere, positives and negatives. I wonder what tomorrow will bring.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Who can tell? I mean, there was an LA Times editorial which was published a couple of hours ago, which said the US has to dance with the Russian bear here. I mean, and we've just had the Syrian foreign minister finish speaking at the UN, and he has announced that any US actions in Syria, any US airstrikes in Syria are illegal, illegitimate, because they haven't been done with the consent of the Syrian government.
Right. And does that mean that it's legal or not? Or in terms of the legal?
The legality of which?
Yeah.
The Russian or the US airstrikes?
Or both.
Well, that's the thing, because US isn't. Well, there's very, very little coordination going on between the US and Syria. So largely, it is illegitimate, the US campaign, bombing campaign. But the Russian bombing campaign, it is working alongside the Syrian government, consulting the Syrian military in order to best target areas which are affected by ISIS control.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose one might say Russia would be criticised if it did go into Syria, and indeed if it didn't. Yeah. I mean, by and large, yeah. I mean, I think with the latter, if being criticised if it didn't, then that would obviously be. Eventually, that would be the case. But I mean, something has to happen. And the thing is that Russia is standing up for legitimate things here. I mean, because obviously there are thousands of ISIS fighters who are of Russian descent who are now fighting Assad and various other rebel factions in Syria. And so they're worried about an overspill, worried about it coming back to Russia again. So these are the reasons why Russia has got involved. Yeah, indeed. And it's a global problem, isn't it? Well, it is a global problem. It's going to affect everyone, because this is the other thing. It is as well leading to huge refugee numbers, which are flooding across the ocean. And of course, this is a case of the chickens coming home to roost in terms of the European Union, because only now really are we seeing leaders suddenly making a fuss, starting to care more about the Syrian conflict now that it's affecting them, now that it's being brought home to them. And they're having to backtrack in what they've said, you know. Yeah. That's why we're seeing people kind of maybe readjusting their opinion on Assad, maybe saying that he can stay as part of a transitional government now, instead of having to go outright. All right, William, thank you. You're going to stay with us, I think, and we're going to chat some more a little later on. But in the meantime, a UN Security Council meeting on how to combat terrorism is indeed underway in New York. There, the French foreign minister said that France is ready to support Russia's anti-ISIL initiative. Well, let's talk about that. We're going to have more analysis just now. We're joined live by French writer and political analyst Alexandre Del Valle. Hi, Alexander. Thank you. So, France is ready to cooperate. That's what we understand. But it's concerned that Russia might seek political gains in the region with these airstrikes. Do you think that this is the case there?
I cannot say it's the case or if not the case, but you know, there is nothing bad to have not only military concerns and targets, but also political aims. It's absolutely normal. And the solution for Syria is not only bombing, it's also political dialogue with all the parties. And Russia doesn't want only to bomb ISIS and other jihadists. Russia also, since the beginning of the war, wanted to gather all the parties, and not only those who support jihadists, like Turkey before and now still people from the Gulf, some stay from the Gulf, but also Iran, Russia, and the regime itself. How can you bomb ISIS and other jihadists if you don't inform the regime, if you don't collaborate with the regime? The strategy wanted by the West and its Arab and Turkish allies was completely unsuccessful, because they forget the main law of strategy. You must define one enemy, and you must gather all those who are able to fight and to destroy this enemy.
Now, just leading on from that, Paris has also recently authorised airstrikes against ISIL in Syria, but without informing Damascus first. Are such actions, are they in line with international law then?
Of course, I will not criticize my government, of course, and I think the government of France is evolving. It's improving its position. It's more realistic than before. But of course, I am in favor of not supporting the mistake of the regime, but being realistic and cooperate. We must cooperate technically with the regime. You cannot bomb ISIS and other, I precise, not only ISIS, but also Al-Qaeda, which belong to Jaish al-Fattah. We always define the enemy being only ISIS, but no, the enemy, it's all the jihadists, and we must cooperate with the regime if we want to know where they are settled, if we want to be efficient. How can you bomb an enemy if you are not able to, and if you don't want to cooperate, to inform, to exchange information, intelligence with the regime? It's why not only France, but the whole West is, except Italy that is more realistic, but all the West is making a very big mistake when they criticize the fact that Russia, Syria, Iraq and Iran are exchanging information. Of course, it's normal to cooperate technically with those countries who have the same enemy. It doesn't mean that we accept the ideology of those regimes like Iran, like Syria. It's just being realistic. Like when we fought against Nazi, we did not share the ideology of Soviet Union, but we were obliged by the fact we had to cooperate with this regime against the main enemy.
Alexander.
Strategy is always defining the main enemy.
All right, Alexander, I want to talk about results, because the first Russian airstrikes, they've already taken out several targets. Now, they were carried out with Syrian cooperation, we know that. Do you think that Russia's air campaign will have a different impact then, because of that reason, than the US-led coalition?
Yes, for the reason I explained before, the strategy that want to settle Russia is much more realistic, and I'm not sure, but it can be more successful because we will be able to coordinate information, to exchange intelligence. We will better know the place of the fighters, and of course I don't know if it will be perfect, but it can be only better than what has been done since the beginning of Syrian chaos, and even since the beginning of the Middle East chaos provoked by absolutely not prepared, not fair, and I would say stupid and counterproductive operation. Those wars in Iraq and also in Libya, and also the idea of bombing Syrian regime were at the beginning of the Syrian civil war. All those politics, those strategies of the West
Alexander,
are absolutely counterproductive.